How to find a good language teacher. Hi, welcome back to my language talking series where I talk about learning languages. Last time I shared with you my opinion about who is better, native or non-native, and that it actually isn't very important. I also mentioned that a good teacher is someone who has a knowledge, who can help you acquire it and help you with competences, so can help you with putting it into practice. Let's have a closer look at this and find out how to find a good language teacher. First thing is knowledge. The teacher has to know what he or she is teaching. As far as language teaching is concerned, it's not only knowing the language as you know your mother tongue, it's also some deeper knowledge about grammar, style, and things like this. If your teacher doesn't know those things, how can he or she help you master them? That's why when I look for a language teacher, I look for some signs that can make me sure that the teacher really has the knowledge. One of these signs are formal qualifications. I really like the teachers who have some university background. They can provide you some more in-depth details about the language you're learning. I know that a teenager, for example, can be a great chat. But ask yourself, when you were a teenager, would you be a good language teacher? The other sign, or rather a warning, is a phrase when teacher says that he or she offers only conversational lessons. And this is usually followed by some kind of promise that there would be no grammar during the lessons. Well, for me, this is a sign that the teacher has very, very little knowledge about the language. So if you ask them a question about grammar, about the rules, they wouldn't be probably able to answer it. And this also might lead to lessons not being well organized, being rather chaotic, and being like a bunch of random topics rather than something structured and leading you somewhere, leading you to achieving your goal. The second thing that we started with was helping you acquire the knowledge. So the teacher has to know how to teach, and here there are also some formal qualifications that can help you find a good teacher. These can be any certificates like TEFL, TESOL, CELTA. These can be also university degrees. Sometimes when you study language, you also study how to teach it. Of course, none of this is a 100% guarantee of finding a really good teacher, but at least you have the probability is much higher. Of course, certificates like CELTA or TESOL aren't probably the best guarantee that the teacher knows the language perfectly, but it's still better than nothing. And yeah, I've seen people passing those exams with B2 knowledge of language. So it's not everything it's not everything to look for. A good sign for a teacher is also if the person has experience, has good opinions, but this is not always the matter. Someone can be just a good person and getting good opinions, although his or her teaching methods are not the best. And also there are many beginners who can be really, really good teachers. So you might experiment with those beginners and also with more advanced. And thirdly, let's look at the competences, so let's look at practice. So first and foremost, the lesson is not a lecture, or shouldn't be this kind of language lesson. This is a dialogue, so you have to be able to speak as much as possible, especially if you're a beginner. It also means that you're getting to your goal. So if your goal is to read Shakespeare, you have to put the knowledge into practice, so you actually have to read Shakespeare. It has to be somewhere there. If you want to learn business English, it has to be business English. Remember that putting it into practice, so if the teacher helps you use what you've learned, is extremely important, because only when you use the language you learn it. Okay, so you found a good teacher, for example, online, you found the profile. Now check them. Check the teacher. So don't, one lesson is not enough. Don't book just one lesson and think that everything would be clear. Give yourself 3 to 5 lessons to find out if the teacher is good for you. So, do you click? Do you like each other? Because language learning is quite often talking about many personal things, so liking the person is also important. Check if this person gives you maybe some homework, because they are also kind of responsible for your own development. This homework doesn't mean that these are exercises from a workbook, but of course it can be like this, but it can be a video to watch, text to read, some kind of review to do, so that what you've learned during the lesson would be learned once again, would be reviewed and remembered for a much longer time. During your lessons, observe if the teacher is correcting you somehow. Of course, it doesn't mean that the corrections have to be like ongoing, on the go, at the moment you make the mistake. But sometimes after the lesson, sometimes at the end, because if you don't know your mistakes, how are you going to correct them? Or the teacher might plan some exercises in order for you to polish the language, the structures that you're misusing, that you're not using correctly. This is important. If you see that the teacher doesn't do it, maybe it's not the best one. Another thing to look for, check if your teacher is a teacher, not an entertainer. Kind of a modern problem. Many teachers think that lessons should be as funny as possible, as enjoyable, but they might not get the idea that they become really contentless. So you enjoy it, you are entertained, but you don't learn much. So if your teacher is more an entertainer than a teacher, then maybe it's not the one you're looking for. Also, don't trust some kind of self-acclaimed specialists. You can find teachers who would offer you the best, the method of learning languages that they developed. They have usually no background, like no experience with other methods. They haven't learned about them, how to use them. They might have used them while taught according to them, but without really trying to understand them, trying to follow the techniques there, and said that it's bad. The modern approach is also usually like method free, in this sense that for each student, for each individual student, a new method is developed. Like you take some things from here, from there, and you prepare something that's tailored for the student. This is my teacher's perspective. So you as a student, look for it. If the teacher has a method, has an idea, and leads it consequently, and it's good. If the teacher uses different methods, but it still makes sense, or is this someone who is just forcing something on you that you don't like? Well, if you like it, if you like the method and it works, you stick to it. But if you don't like it, if you feel tired and it doesn't work, not the teacher for you. And last but not least here, it's been a long video about teachers, but there is one thing in the definition of a teacher: someone who has the knowledge and helps you acquire it. And this you part is really, really important too. Some people think that the teacher is a magician who would do everything for them, and the student is there only to be there, and in a miraculous way would acquire the knowledge. It doesn't work like this. This is an effort of both sides, and don't forget that as a language learner, your task is also to be active, to participate in the lessons, and then you will see that it's much easier for the teacher to teach you in a good way if you're active. And also remember, talk about your goals. Say what you want, say what you like and what you don't like. Give the feedback, because no one's perfect. None of the teachers is perfect, so they all make mistakes. I remember once I was so tired after the whole day of teaching English, and then I had a Polish lesson, and this was a disaster. I admit it, because well, this was a beginner, and some explanations uh, were in English because the person needed it, but I overdid it. I talked too much in English, explaining some cultural stuff about Poland, about Polish language, but mea culpa, that was a huge mistake in my career, and I hope never to do it again. But yes, as a but I'm really grateful, because that person told me that, hey, I would like to have more Polish. Okay, you spoke too much English, and yes, I admit it. This was my mistake. This was really bad, but well, I changed, and the lessons are right now. I get very positive feedback from this person, and remember, you're also responsible for your lessons. So try to co-work with your teacher, and that will be really helpful for you. Whew. That was a long one, but thank you for watching. Thank you for your patience. But it was, I think, this was my opinion, this is my experience. It was packed with things that that are really important for me when I look for a good teacher, and following those rules, those points, I found many good teachers, like those who I mentioned in the previous video, for example, Martyna and Rai, and it worked for me, so I hope that it will work for you. If you have any clues how to find a good language teacher, please comment. Leave a comment there, or even just say hello. That would be really nice. If you have any questions, you can also ask them there. Hope to see you next time. Bye bye. If you like my videos, please subscribe to my channel. This will really help me a lot. Find me also on other social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Mind, and many others. Let's keep in touch. See you next time.